Hey, everybody. I'll read your chats in 1 second. I gotta tweet this bullshit out. Hey, Aubrey, thanks for the sub. Okay, how's everybody doing? What's up? Feet pics? Oh, you bet. Tonight's gonna be nothing but feet pics. Diamond Shark, Rasta Billy Skank, welcome back. Patchy with his patchy clown emoticon. Fear Coder, thank you for the sub. I sound odd? Do I sound odd? What's the Trash Rats intro theme? I assume Rusty made that custom. So. Is there something wrong with my voice? No. What's wrong with it? Is it something wrong with the audio, or are you guys just pretending that I sound too sad? Sound congested? Well, not much I can do about that. That's life. As Joker might say, that's life. You guys ever seen that movie Joker? I think it was a little known movie. Not very many people saw it. Why do you do these at like 1:30 a.m.? Because I live in a freedom-loving country. I don't know where you live, but it sounds like there's no freedom if it's 1:30 a.m. This is a sad stream. Please play some lo-fi hip-hop. Yeah, okay. I'll get that for the next one. Are you sure Rusty made it, or did he just steal it from his monkey friend? Either possibility is equally likely. Oh, it's a song called Ain't the Man by Rusty, so he couldn't even be bothered to make an original 10 seconds. He had to steal from it from himself. Please don't be too depressed. Hey, listen, folks. This morning, Monkey Box Episode 1 was wrongfully taken down for copyright. Hey, Menace, thank you for the sub. So, since I've been spending all day today editing Episode 3, it sure is deflating my balloon of enthusiasm to be working on a project when the previous episode was just removed wrongfully for no reason. So, you know, that's not a lot of fun. I'm going to literally sue the company if they don't fix it because I filed a claim or appeal or whatever the fuck. Because I have the right to use clips from a movie when I'm reviewing the movie, folks. I don't know how they're so far behind on the DMCA fucking laws. So I tweeted at them, hey, you fucking retards, I'm gonna sue the shit out of you if you don't do this. How can they argue they're losing money by me using clips from a film that nobody has seen in 40 years? They're just full of shit. Aljleia21, thanks for the sub. No, you guys, it's not YouTube's fault. For once, YouTube didn't do anything wrong. This is literally the production company or the distributor of Max Monomore, Studio Canal or some shit. The robot automatically saw I used a clip from that movie, and it said, oh, you can't have this. I file an appeal saying, oh no, this follows the law, you daft fucking retard. And then they said, nope, we're gonna block it worldwide. So now I submit another appeal. When they reject it, I get a strike on my YouTube channel, which is YouTube's fault, because that's fucking retarded. And then Studio Canal can either choose, do we waste thousands of dollars on a lawyer? Or do we let this monkey guy positively review our film on YouTube? Oh. That's a tough one, Studio Canal. I guess we'll find out in court, you fucking retards. It's infuriating. And it does not motivate me to keep making more videos like that, because they're just going to get taken down for no reason. And that video wasn't even monetized to begin with. So I made it for free, put in 100 hours of effort for free, put it up praising their movie for free, and then they take it down, nobody can see it. Okay, see you in court. It'll be fun. It'll be fucking easy. I think the judge will take one look, close the book, and say, "You fucking retards." Just give him $20,000 for his troubles. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it was max amount of more. Yeah, I know you kids who watch Twitch all day might be surprised, but yeah, YouTubers do spend up to 100 hours producing a video that is 45 minutes long. I know it might blow your mind. For the lawsuit, do the things every YouTuber is afraid to do. Yeah, thanks, Yudo. Nah, they'll be smart. They'll accept my appeal. If you didn't get to see it, it is literally up on YouTube on somebody else's channel. The same company approved some random guy to re-upload my video, and it got through the appeals, but then when I upload my own video, it gets rejected by the same company. So they can fucking choke to death on my fat monkey cock. I don't give a shit. Anyway, I believe the monkey box should be free. That's right. You should upload to that site that Tier Zoo uploads to. It literally doesn't matter. The production company that made the film is taking it down. Not YouTube. Not YouTube. Monkey cocks are really small, though. That explains a lot. Explains a lot. Alright, enough about my depression chamber. You guys ready to hear some real shit? You guys ready to hear the stories submitted by your fellow commenters? Yeah, it's a copyright issue. Let's get started with a little story called Atheist at Christian School Gets Rejected. Sounds like an age-old tale we will all be able to relate to. I lack nothing in life save companionship. In all my kindergarten memories, I am reserved to an extreme. I was silent as the dead, and so nobody bothered with me. The other boys were rowdy and obnoxious, often fighting. I wanted little to do with them. The girls seemed alien, but that was soon to change. I thought nothing of my social ostracism and outcast status. Being an autistic child, I was comfortable in solitude. The only attention that I garnered was from the teachers and students marveling at my intellect. I was reading at a 5th grade level that year. The next year, I could comprehend high school texts. This was unheard of in my small Christian school, a place that would become a hell for me upon discovering girls. The next year, I met my first infatuation. She was short with a doll's face and an adorably gamine haircut. I don't know that word, I'm sorry. Through her, I was introduced to a lifelong obsession with sluts and whores. In 1st grade, she would frequently direct her attention to different boys. Each one had their turn being her husband during her recess game of house, before being usurped by another, more desirable specimen. I never got my run, always being subjected to the role of dog. My nigh obsession with this girl continued throughout the entire year, but she never saw me as more than an awkward, doting friend. This resulted in several embarrassing incidents in which I was reduced to unpleasantly weeping underneath a desk while she confronted me. Comforted me. In the worst of these incidents, my teacher had to drag me to the principal's office. I still remember her firm grip on my arm and the resigned, disappointed look in her eyes as she signed and aside and lectured me about Jesus. This did nothing to dissuade me in my pursuit of female companionship. The next year, I began spending time with a pretty girl with very long hair and a sweet, charming manner. I'll call her Catherine. We would play at recess with a tomboyish girl whom I would remain friends with for the remainder of my time at that school, but never develop affections for. I became very obsessed with Catherine, and I pursued her for almost 4 years. We spent all our time at school together. When the teacher would ask us to partner up and read books aloud, we were always partners. We would tease and repeat variations of the rhyme, first is the worst, second is the best, third is some sort of goofy autistic rhyme here, while in line to go to recess and lunch. We would walk and talk outside alone sometimes, and I still cherish the conversations we had. All seemed to be going well. She was the only one for me, and I loved her as much as a second grader can love a girl. But this story can't end happily, for this is not a world upon which good things happen to me. One day at recess, another boy asked to play with us. He was one of the outcasts, being dyslexic and possessing ADHD. All of the guys, including me, found him annoying. This was when I committed my first act of unwarranted lunacy. I grew immediately jealous and threw a terrible fit, but she cared only for her new friend. All connection between us was promptly discontinued. I tried my luck with several other girls, the most notable of which was Hannah, who epitomized my lack of staying power with my friends. My time with her is proof of my incompetence when it comes to even simple friendship. I feel I cannot hold a friendship for more than a few months because my personality is deceptive in the vein of a children's story. I'm sure many grew up loving and admiring Peter Pan and then were forced to quickly renounce their childhood upon discovering the plethora of theories painting him as the true villain of the tale. Similarly, my personality is quite alluring at first, but after one gets to know me, my nihilism and off-putting eccentricity start to seep in. Surprising, seeing as any other metalhead and literature enthusiast who watches Mumkey and owns a copy of the Triflers. Available now, mind you. Don't ask me why I have that as my mousepad. Any other literature enthusiast who watches Mumkey and owns a copy of the Triflers would ordinarily come off as normal to everyone around them. Hannah and I met under strange circumstances. I had been admiring her best friend from afar, but seeing as she was a year older, I had no idea how to approach her. Luckily, we shared an obsession with the same book series, so I had a talking point already at my disposal. I soon forgot her friend once we started talking. She shared all my obsessions. We started a secret society that met at lunch and hosted medieval-esque feasts involving home-brewed ale. Ale in quotes. On weekends, we corresponded via email for up to whole days at a time. The first time I ever met someone after school was when my mom took us to a bookstore and then the nearby frozen yogurt place, which was special for us. In between school and martial arts lessons, my mom would take my brother and I to a frozen yogurt place in order to kill time. There, I would often see Hannah by chance, and we would share the details of whatever we were reading at the time. During this period, I wanted for nothing. The companionship I had desired for so long was finally in my grasp. If I could return to a time and pause my life, it would be then. But seeing as this is not the elation chamber, that did not happen. During the summer, Hannah ceased to keep in touch as she had promised. Upon returning to school, I was unable to talk to her as I was still in 4th grade and she in 5th. After 5th grade, recess, the only time during which we could talk, becomes less frequent and at different times from the younger kids. At the advice of my only other friend, my teacher, I composed an email to her asking why she had become distant from me. She replied saying she thought the books we once enjoyed were stupid and Pokemon was far better. I had already grown out of Pokemon, but I still wanted to be her friend. However, it didn't take long before I got the hint that she was simply too embarrassed by the presence of the skinny cross-country runner of a younger boy that I was, who was always kept company by a copy of something by Tolkien. Being once again beset by loneliness, my infatuation with Catherine returned, consolidated by my need for a strangely pretty girl to accompany everywhere she goes. The boys in the class had ceased to be strangers to me at this point, as I had decided to join the school's basketball team. My performance was mediocre in comparison to the Chads of the class, but surprising considering the palpable virginity radiating off of me at all times. Okay. You're in 5th grade, I assume even the Chads of the class were radiating virginity at that point. Through this and my tendency for sexual euphemisms, we became comrades though perhaps not friends. I was always left out of their after-school escapades, though not to my disappointment. These escapades involved such activities as running around after dark with naught but underwear tightly clinging to their prepubescent bodies. The 2 Chads and I decided to take up playing saxophone in band class. Yes, sounds like some real Chad behavior. As the only other option at the school was elective, miscellaneous lessons in a classroom of only 5 or so students. The subpar music education led to us occupying ourselves with playing the circle game popularized by Malcolm in the Middle and talking about girls. Under the duress of the Chads, I left Catherine anonymous poems on her desk. The greatest adrenaline rush I experienced at that school was when I stole over the fence and back into the school during recess, examining Catherine's desk to see if she had kept the poems and letters, which she did. She wrote herself notes interpreting the author as me, but I refused to give in and tell her she was correct due to her obvious crush on Chad. I became addicted to going through her things in order to find her opinions on what I had given her, but one day I went too far. I was seen hopping the fence and given a detention. This led to her discovering I had been rifling through her desk, and her father, a teacher, was notified. The Catherine saga concluded after I realized my hopeless situation and made one final effort to win her over. I ran up to her in the hallway before leaving school and mumbled the words, "I love you," before promptly sprinting away. Her reaction can be appropriately assumed by anyone paying attention to how I have described myself. Up until this point, I still retained a strong belief in God. I was born into Christianity, and my parents were such Bible-thumping Jesus freaks that they found it appropriate to send me to a private Christian school, despite the inferior quality of education offered. However, after 6th grade ended and Becky left me for Chad, this belief faded. I had observed the fallacies of religion and the hypocrisy of the church, and the teachers provided me poor explanations which were easily rendered false under Occam's razor. The hypocrisy was strong indeed. One teacher, also Catherine's father, went on long tirades about how he would enforce corporal punishment in schools if legal. Interestingly, he was fond of me, but I felt pity for the students who were not as lucky. He once provided the class with an anecdote about how my using the word denizens in response to a question on a test is proof that reading is superior to watching dank memes. However, his firm belief in the cane and scientific explanations for Christianity prevented me from appreciating his lessons much at all. Another teacher authorized Chad to get up in front of the class and imitate me in order to prove that I was making annoying high-pitched sounds. I was not, but she promptly sent me into the hall after seeing his realistic imitation of my voice, which was highly reminiscent of a pig's squealing. Folks, I feel like this one might be fiction. This is just too funny. Every single paragraph is just too funny. I'm gonna keep reading, but if this is real, I got a bad feeling about some of my fan base. Additionally, the students were even worse than the teachers. Their parents likely enrolled them in the school because they believed the Bible would cure their unruliness. But it just allowed them to bully me into submitting to anything they willed. Nothing at that school reflected well upon Christianity, and I was sick of the propaganda they touted in favor of God's existence. To this day, my parents have yet to know of my atheism. I fear if I come out to them, I will meet the same fate as Vincent. However, they did allow me to transfer to public school, which excited me. A chance to forge a new identity in which I was not the kid who used to cry underneath his desk because girls didn't like him was at the forefront of my wish list in life. Despite my suppressing the latent household holy war waiting in the wings, there was still an abundance of problems at home. My father works a difficult and stressful job at UPS. He manages the entire state of Montana for the company and makes quite exorbitant sums for it. The truck drivers alone make $100,000 a year. However, he is always taking calls and constantly leaving town for meetings, and this takes a toll on his mental state. Due to my acting out in school and underperforming in my classes, he often takes his repressed rage out on me. While angry, he is a sight to behold, though surely not nearly the sight that your Uncle Alex was upon discovering that if you give a monkey a banana was not about what he thought it was. Additionally, he lacks understanding of my introversion and pressures me to participate in activities which I do not enjoy. After I was sent to the ER and he discovered I was suicidal, he threatened to tell my close family friends that I wanted to kill myself in order to stop me from telling my counselor about his anger issues again. This backwards logic persisted when we went to Hawaii, and he noticed several self-inflicted cuts on my legs. He yelled on the pier in front of a crowd of people, "If you ever fucking cut yourself again, I will beat the living shit out of you." The following story describes how I came to be in that state. I quickly befriended an artsy, introverted girl as soon as I arrived at my new school, who I'll call Jess. I would follow her through the halls and talk to her whenever possible. We shared the same autistic interests like Undertale and anime. Perhaps this time I would find love. She had a friend named Amelia, not her real name, who invited me to join her amino community. I would talk to her and Jess often, but Jess was rarely available. One night I was having a long conversation with Amelia in which she asked who I liked. I said I had a slight crush on Jess, and Amelia confessed that Jess liked me too. The two girls called me one night while they were having a sleepover, and Jess and I confessed to each other. I was elated, but that was soon to change. Jess and Amelia shared my first birthday, not spent alone with me, and I shared my first kiss with Jess that night. I quite enjoyed it and felt my life was finally going in a direction I liked. This is when I would make the most asinine, utterly retarded, regrettable decision I ever have. On Thanksgiving, not even 2 weeks after my birthday, Amelia confessed to me. She bequeathed upon me platitudes such as, "I've talked to friends and family and they all say I would make a far better girlfriend than Jess." Being a worthless spurg, I agreed to cheat on Jess with Amelia. Hey! 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 Rude! Uncalled for, folks! Worthless spurg, how dare you? How dare you? Oh no. I attempted to conceal this by breaking up with Jess after a few days with Amelia, but this failed in the greatest way possible. When on a date with Amelia at her house, we filmed a YouTube video and posted it to my channel. In it, I introduced my beautiful girlfriend and kissed her on camera. The video would amass views from my entire class, and many of the older kids saw it as well. Only a few days after our breakup, Jess watched the video. This is where you can observe my second similarity to Asperger, the first being my Asperger syndrome. Like the woman beater extraordinaire, I am also great at abusing women. However, I am even worse than Brandon is because I nearly caused this girl to commit suicide. Jess texted a picture of a noose to Amelia, who called the police. Amelia spent several days in the hospital because of me and retains severe depression to this day. For some reason, likely related to the profound mental dysfunction I possess, I wasn't happy even after winning over Amelia. The video was ubiquitous. I couldn't do anything without someone mentioning it to me. Previous strangers would express their disturbed fascination with us, asking us to kiss in front of them. This can't be real. Amelia always complied, relishing the recognition. In contrast, I wanted only to fade into relative obscurity. The attention we received bordered on ridicule, and I wanted nothing more than to be forgotten. These elements cultivated a bitter resent for her in my heart, which is why our relationship fell apart after not even 2 months. This caused me to enter another short-lived relationship with another extremely depressed girl who was friends with the two, which ended after a mutual decision only a month or so in. The guilt of what I had done to both girls was overwhelming, and what I thought was a hopeless crush on the third girl led me to harm myself. Eventually, she found out and told the counselor, which got me sent to the hospital. While there, I received no ideas of worth whatsoever. The man sent to help me enjoyed reading as well and illustrated his point poorly with The Shawshank Redemption. Though Andy didn't commit the crimes, he persisted throughout prison by seeing his confinement as enjoyable. So all I have to do is pretend my father is a nice guy in order to get him to stop taking out his anger on me. Or so he told me. Though they attempted to prescribe me therapy and antidepressants, my parents refused to have anything of the sort and denied my mental illness because they couldn't bear the embarrassment of having a depressed son. I doubt they will be able to bear the embarrassment when I eventually kill myself because of them either. Enter the current year. I am now 14 years old. Oh. A little older than the average Mumkey Jones viewer, fair. My life improved after everything fell through with Amelia, only to plummet midway through the year to reach a new low. I met 3 new friends, all male losers. I also took up the bass guitar, a recent passion of mine. I practice upwards of 4 hours a day in addition to playing gigs and practicing in 4 bands, one of which includes 2 of my best friends, both guitarists. I had a long span of good days until they realized I was autistic. One day, 2 of them arrived at my door and invited me to go ride our bikes. Upon following them, I was led to a secluded spot in the woods and beaten with large tree branches. It was never mentioned again, and I continued to hang out with the guys because I had no one else. They frequently ostracized me in favor of a red-haired child who is even more autistic than I am. His sense of humor is solely dependent upon screaming and making high-pitched squeals, but yet every time he receives laughs. My depression became more and more apparent to my friends, but instead of offering an outlet for me to discuss my feelings, they ridiculed me. They made jokes like, "Better not hang yourself in the school bathroom or the retarded kid will think your corpse is a piñata." They would ask me if I needed a rope with which to hang myself, and other miscellaneous offensive remarks. This was when I met her. Her soft flaxen hair was immaculately groomed, but her eyes, her incandescent eyes, large and innocent, They transfixed me so unequivocally, held me captive against my will. Her soft, lilting voice was a blessing upon my ears. If God existed, she would be his magnum opus, the foremost of all his works, just as Boku no Pico was Miyazaki's. Her name was Ashley. Uh-oh, we've all been there. Not only was she beautiful and elegant, but she talked to me. Despite my poor reputation due to associating with those who were reputable for annoying everyone within range, my reputation for making repulsive YouTube videos with repulsive girls, she gave me attention. Our conversations are some of my most valuable memories to date, and never was I happier than when talking with her. I taught her about the works of David Foster Wallace, how to appreciate black metal, and how to construct a beautiful poem. I mean, if you're gonna write a fake story, at least be subtle, folks. This is just too much. She indulged me in my pretentious ramblings and told me about herself. She teased me affectionately about my curly mess of hair, my love of poetry and literature, and the fact that I received the highest score my English teacher had ever seen on our standardized test. She would be reprimanded often 10 times in one class for talking to me while she wasn't supposed to my amusement. I would lend her books and we'd talk of them. One day we were enjoying a conversation about David Foster Wallace, with whom I have mixed feelings. I told her they should pay me gratuitous, unnecessary sums to ramble on about stupid shit. I mean, David Foster Wallace talks about the porn industry in an essay for way longer than anyone cares to read about porn. She responded, well, if you'd let people read your poems, perhaps you could get paid to ramble on about pretentious shit. You want to read my poems? Yes, I am a very curious person. And so, I handed her a poem I had written about her. She was unaware of the subject's identity, of course. Somehow, she ended up liking it. A lot. She typed it up and saved it onto her phone. I gave her more poems, working for hours at a time to express my love for her in verse. She loved them. Then one day, almost a week from the time of my writing this, I couldn't take it. I had to make a move on her before the end of the school year. So I devised an asinine, detestable plan only a true Aspie could invent. I wrote her a final poem in which the first letter of each word spelled her name, and the first letter of the second word of each line spelled "want to go out." At the end, I told her which letters to read. I passed her in the halls, and with great nervousness racking my body, I told her, I strongly advise you to read this. The following school day was very nearly the worst day of my life. The worst being the time I was sent to the hospital for being suicidal and I was given no help. Afterwards, my dad told me he was very disappointed in me and lectured me about how suicide is selfish and never the answer. He apologized for abusing me, but said it had nothing to do with my depression. But that has little to do with this day. I had been anticipating it for 3 endless-seeming days due to Memorial Day weekend. That morning, I woke up early and put on the outfit I looked best in. I pumped myself up by playing bass to Panic Attack by Dream Theater, one of my favorite metal songs to listen to and to play. Monkey note here, I would agree, Dream Theater is a kick-ass band. I strode into school with a heavy heart, but a head full of confidence. I had my expectations set low. I expected her to brutally friend-zone me, but I hoped dearly that my love would not be unrequited. However, I was met with disappointment. It was our end-of-year celebration, a whole day of fun and games outside. First, we met in our advisory classrooms, advisory being a homeroom of sorts. When we left to go clean our lockers out before enjoying the festivities, I was met with crippling news. My best friend Nathan and the ginger who screams share an advisory with Ashley. Nathan told Ginger Boy to ask her, "So about Anon, parentheses me." She allegedly and nonchalantly responded with simply this: "Ew." Somehow my low expectations were far from met. So many negative thoughts flooded my mind at this moment. Not only that, but the ginger fuck said, "Anon is going to kill himself because of you." Another jab at me for being depressed. My best friend completely fucked me over. I considered him to be the nicest out of the three guys. That didn't sadden me as much as her response, though. I truly thought we had something. I couldn't have simply misconstrued her teasing and asking me about past relationships and telling me my poems were good as flirting. I couldn't have. Could I? Am I simply a repulsive, fetid, squalid creature to her? Buddy, you do not need to use thesaurus.com to send in your story. You can just use normal words. It's fine. Bad enough to warrant an ew? The celebration was spoiled for me. I yelled at the ginger, yelled louder than any of the obnoxious, omnipresent hallway noise. I screamed with rage and then broke down into tears. The most embarrassing moment I've had. Caught in the thrall of mingled rage, sorrow, and embarrassment, I walked into the bathroom and sobbed. When I emerged, I returned to my advisory class and planted my head in my arms upon my desk. I talked to nobody, but so many kids were asking the teacher if I was alright that she removed me from the class and brought me down to the detention room. The only place where I could enjoy peace. After weeping uncontrollably for over an hour, I left to enjoy the celebration. I couldn't bear to see Nathan and the guys, so I sat down on the grass with my newly purchased copy of House of Leaves and tried to ignore my plight. Before too long, I found it hard to focus on the demanding text, partially due to the fact that Ashley and her friends had sat right in front of me to enjoy their lunch. She kept glancing at me and asking about the book. I at first ignored her, but she pressed me with inquiries. I kept trying to work up the courage to talk to her, but she left before I had sufficiently convinced myself. When she returned to play volleyball with her friends, I had made a little bit of progress with the novel, but not much. She invited me to play, but I declined under the assumption that she was doing out of pity. On her third attempt to get me to join, she walked over to where I was seated and said that it would make her happy if I were to play volleyball with her and her friends. I grudgingly obliged and proceeded to have the first happy moment of the day. On our way inside, she asked me about why I wanted to kill myself, and I explained how Nathan had betrayed me. Unfortunately, we had little time to talk as we had to return to our advisory classes for an hour before the end of school. I had no friends in my advisory, but I noticed several kids allowed to visit other classes. I asked permission to go to another teacher's advisory class, which was granted. I then strode to Nathan's class with hope in my heart. Nathan was too engaged with the ginger, making disturbing sounds. However, my wishes came true when Ashley beckoned me over to her desk upon which she was seated. I sat on the desk next to hers and she begged me to play cards with her. I asked her if we could talk first, but she was stubborn. I capitulated, and we played cards and ended up talking while we played. I spent almost an entire hour with her, and I consider it to be the best hour of my life. She paid no mind to her friends in the class, only to me. We talked as we used to. It came easily. I awkwardly tried to inquire about her disgust with me, and she admitted to leading me on. This enrages me every time I think about it. I can't believe she knowingly led me on, and yet I still don't love her any less for it. However, she did assure me that she thought I was a good person and that she wished to see me again after the year's end. It's a shame she is one of the perhaps 10 kids in the entire school who is going to a different high school than the rest next year. I don't know that I'll ever see Ashley again. Every day since my rejection has been hard. I haven't had 5 minutes of happiness since. Each hour I feel naught but a dull ache. I know they say that there are plenty more fish in the sea, but like a lot of sayings, this one is bullshit. There are other girls, but not like her. She was remarkably intelligent, uncommonly so, with a brilliant personality and beautiful features. I will never know what it is like to feel her lips on mine, my hand in hers, or to talk late into the night with her and confess my deepest secrets. I will never know any more about her than the bare scrapings I already do. It isn't even about her, it's about the future I could have had with her. She is a representation of my inability to find love. Her rejection assures me that I could find 1,000,000 perfect girls, none of whom will like me. No matter how right it felt, I was oblivious to all the wrongness. I fear that will be the case forever. It takes all the will I have not to end my life. I have to continue on, because everyone tells me I'm going to be great. I've always wanted to be a writer, but I have so many doubts that I can't make it. All my few attempts at publication have failed. I'd like to become a professional bassist, but I don't know that I'll ever escape the garage, or this small town. My dreams of leaving a mark on the world are the only thing keeping me alive, and perhaps one day I'll become famous and make Ashley disappointed that she missed out. A childish fantasy, I know, but it's the only reason I have left to live, and I still don't know whether I want to see tomorrow. It's been almost a full year since my first email, and oh, how the tables have turned. A full 180 turn, followed by 1 step forward and 2 steps back into the pit of despair. I feel caught on the hedonic treadmill, except my base level of happiness is so much lower than everyone else's that I inevitably always return to a state of melancholy. Now, you're probably wondering how I got myself into this situation. Well, it all started when I realized the red pill I took upon confessing to Ashley was a facade. Once summer started, I was left to my own devices. I spent the first week gaming and binging Depression Chamber, Mama Max, and Jordan Peterson. I ate with abandon and without restraints. I was still in a state of shock and overwhelming agony. The next week I realized I could not go on this way. The pain since the rejection had yet to subside, but I was able to numb it by busying myself with productivity. Every morning I would run 6 miles before doing anything else, which gave me plenty of time for introspection and relieving myself of my Elliot Rodger-like rage. Then I would prepare a healthy meal and enjoy an afternoon of jotting down the poetic and musical ideas I had found while running. By the time this routine had solidified itself in my life, I was feeling better than ever. I still felt the same dull pain whenever I thought about Ashley, which was still quite often, but its prominence in my memory was greatly diminished, and so my pain had finally begun its decline. Then it came. One day, I woke up to an Instagram notification. She had made an account and followed me. Everything I felt before about never learning more about her than what I knew was completely irrelevant in the light of this new development. I responded to queries on her story regarding the cuteness of her dogs, which were accompanied by music from her new favorite band, which I introduced her to. For some reason, I could feel that she would be into indie rock. So, during class, I asked her to listen to Arcade Fire's album Funeral, which she loved even more than I do. To see she was still listening to their music made me happy, as I am sure she did it while thinking of me. I responded by adding more music to my story, accompanied by pictures from the outside of my window and my room. For each one, she copied the format and added a picture to her story. She gave in and messaged me after I took a video of me playing Flight of the Bumblebee on my bass without a pick and playing all the notes for your information. The best she could do was fumbling about with the open strings on a ukulele. The result of this was a long conversation throughout which she grew to understand my depression, wrought by her hands, and I grew to understand my mistake. My best friend lied to me without knowing. She had actually been saying "ooh" in response to her perverted friend trying to go through her phone and find nudes. The reason she turned me down was due to the fact that her mother, another teacher, was strict and did not allow her to date. Her older half-sister was subjected to sexual abuse in college, and so her mother disliked the thought of boyfriends altogether. All the relationships in Ashley's past had failed because her boyfriends couldn't abide a relationship in which dates were non-existent. The following days were consumed by my conversations with Ashley. Everything I wanted to know about her, I learned. Her insecurities about only being in advanced classes due to her mom being a teacher, her fear of inevitably succumbing to a boring office job, and her certainty of death as a kissless virgin. I knew it all. She was delighted when I told her I saw her as a manic pixie dream girl because she admired characters that fit the archetype. Oh, that's not healthy. Don't date a girl who identifies as that, folks. Don't fucking do it. She truly did carry all the eccentric traits of such a girl, which explains why my greasy white boy ass was so obsessed with her. In fact, she was convinced she had no story of her own, and her own purpose in life was to help me. Every so often, she would either become extremely depressed at the prospect of a life without romantic affection, and I would have to comfort her, or she would flirt with me cruelly. From kissy face emoticons to alluding to the tip of my member, she did it all. Why she did this, I was unsure, because she felt remorse for leading me on, yet she wasn't allowed to date. This all became clear when she confessed to me. Despite what you may expect, after her confession, our relationship became exponentially more tumultuous. At first, she refused to believe I was still in love with her. She thought I was cruelly toying with her to conceal my affections for someone else. Then she refused to be with me because I was too good for her. Every night resulted in an argument over her merits as a person. Even after exposing to her my borderline sociopathy and nihilistic philosophy, she still saw me as a flawless bass and guitar virtuoso, cross-country swimming and track star, and master poet. I told her I thought she was a fantastic ballerina with a singing voice like honey on warm bread, but she denied my every accusation. Her one good point was her being separated from me at the downtown high school, while I went to the preppy one. However, I promised her that once I got my driver's license, I would take her on adventures reminiscent and worthy of all the young adult novels she loves so well. The few good points in this time came from our occasional flirting. Every night we exchanged overly cutesy platitudes which never failed to warm my evil heart. Despite this, I knew I had to draw an end to her stubborn refusal to date me. The point at which I had enough came when she tried to hook me up with my best friend's sister. She played bass in one of my bands and was on the cross-country team, so naturally she would be perfect. As long as you discarded the fact I loved another girl and the fact that she is a junior while I am a lowly freshman, I confided in my friends at a sleepover after a New Year's party and a comedic performance by our band. I had made up with Nathan after his betrayal. He is hard to hate for long. My relationship with them had been strengthened by our experiences at band camp as the group Your Mom. Don't remark on the name, I know it is about as intellectual as they come. For once I was able to trust them, and I ghosted Ashley. It didn't take long for me to forget her. The guilt of it still lingers. I hate to be just another asshole on the list of guys from her she couldn't keep a relationship with. I hate leaving her thinking I broke her heart. Worst of all, I'll never get back that time I spent all summer talking to her, trying to win her love before discovering my wish was best left not granted. Now, though, I barely think about her. I've found better things with which to occupy myself. The most hopeless crush yet will likely amuse you with its sheer impossibility. Each last relationship has left me at the lowest point in my life thus far, but yet I still come crawling back for more. Addictions of the material world can be escaped, but love is one that feels so natural it must be a necessity. This girl sent me tumbling back into the pit of despair. This girl was Mel. It was a magical night. I was away from home all day at a swim meet in a different town, and the bus was finally making its way back. Elation swelled within my heart as I had just made mincemeat of my previous 100-meter record. I knew nobody on the team, and all the seats were full but one at the back, so I assumed my place next to Maui. I call him this because he was a stereotypical islander boy who liked Disney movies. He made necklaces out of beads and shark teeth, believed he used to be a mermaid or some shit, and sang softly to himself while lying against the window on the bus. He also was probably gay. Luckily, he was friends with a pair of interesting girls. As we piled into Wendy's, the pair and I joked back and forth about the events of the day. After ordering my food, I looked for a place to sit and noticed the two girls. I asked if I could sit, and they complied affably, as would be appropriate. I fit in well, making witty remarks about politics which were likely far funnier in my head. As we climbed back onto the bus, I attempted to resume reading my book, which, even if their conversation hadn't been distracting me, would likely have been difficult because it was something Russian and existentialist, and all my energy for the day was near spent. Of course, my attempt was futile. Or futile, however you want to pronounce that shit. They spoke of paranormal encounters, which eventually led to horror stories in general. My extensive knowledge of the Norwegian black metal scene proved useful here, and my audience was sufficiently enraptured by the tale of how Natrom was rumored to have sewn pig hands onto his arms in place of his own, or sold vials of his blood in tandem with his poetry book. The conversation drifted towards criminal atrocities, philosophy and religion, politics, dating, porn, and theories of the universe. It was an experience unlike any other. I constantly glanced out the window in fear that we were arriving, not wanting the night to end, and slowly I found myself growing closer and closer to Mel. Every word she spoke was uniquely intoxicating, provoking more questions about the nature of her being. I found we shared a kinship. We were the same. And as I stepped off that bus, I sadly suspected she would occupy my thoughts for days to come. The misery in this came in the fact that I suspect she is a senior. I cannot remember where I heard this from, but I am quite certain she is either a junior or a senior while I am still only a freshman. Not only is she perhaps 3 years older than I am, but she goes to a different school. The ghetto and preppy schools share practice times and buses because swimming isn't particularly popular in this small town. What torments me most is the fact that when I finally worked up the courage to talk to her at practice, she stopped showing up. This spawned the onset of my suffering, knowing I would never see her again. I knew I had to speak to her again. The epic 2 hours we spoke for on the bus deserved a follow-up. Luckily, I was able to find her on Instagram, so I decided to grow a ball sack for once and follow her. After a week, she hadn't followed me back, and I was out of ideas. I had forgotten you could DM private accounts at that point, so I tagged her in a close friends-only video of me mindlessly shredding on guitar. It was basically just wankery with no regard to melody in order to impress her. Although it was a bad idea, I got what I wanted. She followed me and even went to the lengths of replying cool to it. My elation died quickly, since then I have mounted several attempts to get her to talk to me. In all but one instance, she has been too tired from her busy day to do anything but go to bed. Okay. By the time she gets home from work, I would typically be trying to fall asleep. The one time she did reply, we stayed up until 1 in the morning, and it was something that I reminisce on whenever I doubt I have any chance at all with her. I learned many things from my late night conversation with her. For one, she doesn't hang out with anyone outside of school, so if I could break that barrier, I would be making serious progress. That, however, is easier said than done. What is astonishing to me about her is that she is not ignorant, yet she is optimistic. She is aware of all the negative things in life, yet still remains happy. This is something I cannot dream of doing. Somehow she is able to penetrate my meaningless philosophy with hope, and her kindness warms my heart. Inexorably. I don't know. When I made a joking remark like, well, I can't get pussy, but I'm not about to shoot up a school because of it, she told me, I'm sure you can. You have a wonderful personality and are super passionate. That made me smile uncontrollably like an idiot. And just for your information, I was telling the truth. If I do shoot up a school, it will be because Obama brainwashed me into doing it. Class. That's a classy shot from all the way back in the day, folks. Gives you warm, nostalgic feelings. Not because I can't get laid. She also told me she loved listening to people talk, to which I replied, haha, I love talking, match made in heaven, which she thought was funny. Okay, real quick. I think the story's almost over. But if any of you in the audience would like to submit things to the Depression Chamber, but you don't want to write a story, it would be amazing if you could just copy and paste conversations you've had with girls while flirting with them. That might be the greatest evolution of this show. I really enjoy reading autistic kids trying to flirt with girls. Anyway. The only reason suicide doesn't even appear to me as an idea is because she told me, as long as I know you, you aren't allowed to kill yourself. I thought it was really touching, and I like to at least know she cares. The problem comes in that I have no way to see her. She's responded once in the month, and I've been trying to reach her, and I'm scared to message her again out of fear of showing her the clingy spurg that I really am. I invited her to one of my gigs, but she never showed up. Plus, any relationship we have is doomed because she's leaving for college soon. I feel like I am in love with the moon, only visible at night, and even then only fully at certain times in the month. This is where I stand as of the present day. I am trapped in this endless cycle of obsessions, and I still lack purpose or meaning. My choice of career is made harder by the fact that my dad wants me to do something practical as opposed to the liberal arts, which are the only things in which I show promise. I struggle to fit in among my peers and in my own family, who will never know the full truth of me. No matter which need is met, I can never find happiness without meaning, and I simply feel there is none. In closing, I leave you with what I took from one of my favorite literary works, Flowers for Algernon. Good book. In the end, ignorance is bliss. Charlie pursues intelligence passionately despite his woeful state of disability until he undergoes an operation increasing his intellect. After this, he recognizes everything he was ignorant of before and becomes depressed. When his intelligence inevitably returns to its original state, He ceases to identify things that would otherwise cause him sadness. Reading this makes me wish I could undergo an operation to become dumber, so that I could live the life of my Christian family, believing there is life after death and that the suffering of this world is temporary. While life will eventually end, the misery of existence can't be considered temporary when your life is all you'll ever know. I thank you, Mumkey, for reading this and the chat for listening. Your content stuck with me long after my first viewing as an insightful analysis of depression and a clever satire of basement dweller culture. I related to a sex doll wearing a monkey mask more than I have most humans. Love you, Jumpkey, no homo. And that is the story of the atheist at Christian school. Only took me about an hour. Okay, chat. This is the part of the stream where you guys become real relevant. We need you to give this guy advice. You've heard all of his personal problems. Now I need you guys to be the top tier therapists I know you are and tell this 14-year-old kid how to improve. Quit bitching and get some pussy. I think we could say that to pretty much every story. Thank God it's over. Okay, good. I can't listen to little kids wanting to fuck anymore. It's a relatable passion that we all share. Who doesn't want to fuck? Where the depression in his story? He just said he's so smart that it makes him depressed. Were you not paying attention, folks? He's too smart to be happy. 20 bits to pay my utilities. Thank you so much. I think my utilities bill this month was $280, so I'm well on my way to paying it. Thank you. Upload this one. It was so sad. No. Not. This is where it can die. This story can die on this stream. Let me tell you this. If he is watching this, I don't know if he's really in the chat or not. When it comes to that girl who you fancy, the present-day girl, when you are interested in pursuing a relationship with somebody, if they are not giving you back that same interest, just don't pursue it. When somebody says, sorry, I only hang out with people I go to school with, that's an outright lie. If she actually cared about you and wanted to spend time with you, that kind of shit would be irrelevant. She's just making an excuse so that you don't try to hang out with her in person. That's the facts, folks. That is the facts. If somebody wants to spend time with you, they will prove it by wanting to spend time with you. They will not give you 1,000 excuses. I mean, it seems obvious to me. I don't know. He seems so smart. I don't know how he's missing this one. Anyway, luckily that is the longest story of the night, so don't worry. These other ones that I chose will be a bit quicker for us. He has a superiority complex. This pussy needs to get over himself. Honestly, 200 plus IQ to be sad. Take this story to the vet and euthanize it here. And now this shit sucks. Yeah. Clearly this chat is based enough to know I'm retarded. Literally just stop being 14. Yeah, that's another one. That's another one. I suspect when you are 24, you will not identify with the human you were at the age of 14. You'll probably wish that you did not submit this story and that 200 people didn't hear it. Because you will literally just not identify with who you are right now anymore. That's how it happens. When I watch the short films I made at age 14, as you may recall from my reviews of them, a lot of the time I literally cannot fathom what I was thinking as I made it. I'm so far removed from who I was back then that I literally cannot even comprehend my own thoughts and mental state at the time. I assume every 10 years, most people look back on who they were 10 years ago with shame and regret. I certainly hope so. I think that's called growing and becoming a better person. I will always identify with who I am now. Hardsey, if that's the case, man, just end it now, buddy. If it's not getting any better for you, I don't know if it's worth it. Hey, Man Band. You are, Man Band, I'm going to say this right now. Of all my Twitter repliers, you're in the top 3, my friend. Top 3 Twitter replies. Anyway, let's move on to a little story called An Underachiever's Cry for Help. And if I recall, this was sent by somebody named Autistic Amy, so this might be another real-life girl story. Before I begin, I'd like to say that for anonymity, god fucking damn it, I'm changing names. I should also mention, to the surprise of no one, I'm on the autistic spectrum. I was diagnosed with it when I was at the age of 4, so if it sounds like I'm fucking retarded, that's because I am fucking retarded. I'm also from the UK. Sorry if my story's long. My name is Amy. When I was a young girl, I was the top achiever of my class. My work was always very good and my grades were at the top end. I was always praised for doing well and my primary school life was pretty happy. I had a family who loved me and friends by my side. Well, whatever friends I did have. Mostly, I was either ignored or picked on. I had a teaching assistant by my side during primary school. We'll call her Poppy, who was the sweetest woman I had ever met. I was also sent to a couple of youth groups, too. Everything was going well until the later years of secondary school, specifically with my A levels. I had a new teaching assistant for secondary school, we'll call her Jessica, and during the later years, our relationship became rocky as we constantly got into arguments and fights over workloads. One fight I remember is that I gave her a paragraph, which is what she requested before, and threw a tantrum at me because it was a paragraph. I remember one incident where Jessica actually physically pushed me because she wanted to correct a math problem I tried to solve because I had answered it incorrectly. Many times, she had stressed to me the point of tears with her constant... She had stressed me to the point of tears with her constant demands, and she often treated me like I was her fucking dog. She would also often write completely unrelated comments in my diary, which my parents would mistake for my actual work, and they didn't want to hear my explanations. All of this stress made me jaded and unhappy, wishing for the day that I would get hit by a bus and never have to listen to her screeching voice again because I was too much of a pussy to go with suicide. Not helping me at all was the fact that all my previous friends had completely cut off ties with me for some reason, and I was getting bullied a lot more. There was one last friend I had, who I'll call Isaac, who I had met in a previous youth group, and he had finally cut me off too because he was involved in a bullying incident because we were friends and we happened to be the opposite gender. That same bully also had the same taxi as me, and he would threaten to egg my house and rape me. I told the principal of the college, who finally managed to make him stop. One day after school, I broke and told my mom everything about Jessica, except the physical push part. I guess I was too scared to mention that, and she moved me to another college, which is where I started making some new friends, and I was actually happy for the first time in years. Of course, this happiness wouldn't last because over the years, my mother had grown more demanding and angry, like Jessica was. She would freak out over everything that involved school, especially if it had to do with work. Of course, she didn't just grow this angry overnight. There were many cases, especially when I was 5, when she would hit me and send me to my room. I remember one incident when I was 13 where she slapped me across the face over schoolwork. According to my older sister, every time she cried when she got her hair brushed, my mother would beat her with the hairbrush. However, the person who got the worst of it was definitely my older brother. We'll call my older brother Leon. Leon was a loving brother. I remembered when he got a motorcycle and got injured. Not sure what happened to it. I don't remember. I do remember that Mom would stress him out too, but I thought he could pull through. He had a daughter and a loving girlfriend, but all of that changed when he left them. One day he got in trouble with the police and was arrested. I forgot what for, but it probably had to do with his addiction to drugs. Drugs were the major problem with Leon. After he got out, he stayed with us because he had nowhere to go. A few weeks later, he and Mom got into a heated argument. As I was getting ready for school, I could hear Mom and him screaming at each other, and it got heated to the point where Leon kicked the storage door and it broke. He then ran out into the street. A few weeks later after that, and Leon was apparently arrested again. This time when he called Mom and she was away and I answered. He told me he was sorry and this would never happen again. As he got out, he apparently cleaned himself up from the drugs and started working on Dad with construction. The last time I ever saw Leon was on his birthday, which I remember was at the end of January 2019, as he was heading out on a party. He didn't come home that night and everyone was so worried. Another few weeks passed, and in the middle of the night, an officer showed up at our door. Leon had died of a drug overdose. During his funeral, I bursted into tears and my mom had to escort me out. At the beginning of December 2019, my granddad also passed away. 2020 also hit me as well because now I was stuck with my mother being demanding and angry over work and would often order me around while she would sit there and do nothing. I feel like the only place I'm ever happy anymore is in my room, alone, on my laptop. My grades are slipping. I'm starting to lose my friends again. My mother is just as bad as Jessica was, and I can't fucking take it anymore. I've grown so jaded and uncaring towards everything. I just want to fucking end it, but I can't. I don't see things looking up from here. Maybe things will be better in September when the second year of school starts, but that's a huge fucking maybe. Thanks for listening to my story, Jimmy. I love your videos. From Amy. Well, folks, another classic tale of a teenager trapped at home with a shitty / abusive parent / parents. Not a whole lot you can do when you're a teenager, huh? I don't know, what advice do you guys have in the chat? Have any of you overcome being stuck with shitty parents? She should beat her mom, good idea. Once you get out of shitty school and your house, you'll be so much happier. Yeah, that is true, but the problem is she's gonna be stuck there for a while. Wait till you turn 18 and get revenge. Do a backflip, okay. She should stop being British, I agree. Get good grades so you can get a free ride to university. Just don't have parents, okay. I can't even fathom having to deal with that. Yeah. Sadly, I mean, I would imagine more people live like that than you even think. Amy, I'm sorry. I hope your mom can leave you alone. Okay. Stop treating liking the office like it's a personality trait. I think that that might be somebody's advice to like upgrade their Tinder profile. I don't know if that's relevant right now. Call CPS. Yeah, that is the... If it gets so bad that you're literally about to kill yourself, maybe get, you know, the cop police or the parent police involved, but it's a pretty extreme move. But then again, so is committing suicide. I have an idea. Have you heard of Elliot Rodger? Good advice. The UK police are a joke. Yeah, what are they gonna do? Walk into your house with a fucking baton and tell your mom to be good? You need a good old-fashioned fucking Glock, like us USA cops have. That'll teach your parents. Have you considered buying a gun? Can we see your Tinder profile? I don't have one at the moment. Hopefully I never fucking... I hope I never touch Tinder again. I think even if I was single again, I would never touch Tinder. Dude, don't shit on the British police. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost will fuck your day up. Good point. Man, it's weird to me that some people have parents like this. All my life, my parents were great, and I feel like I've been taking that for granted. Well, yeah. You want to talk about privilege, Hardsey? One of the... probably the greatest privilege is being born into good parents. I don't know. Skin color? No. Irrelevant. Poverty? Sure, that could suck, but... I mean... having just parents who are good and kind, as opposed to the opposite, that seems like the highest privilege I can think of. And if they're rich too, well, fuck. Man, you, regardless of what you look like, you should count your blessings. Marry up, yeah. Oi, do you have a license to stream? Okay. You guys ready to hear? I was baby trapped by a psychotic whore. Sounds a little bit like the story we heard from, I think his name was Gary? Last episode? Who was that? Whatever. Back in the MySpace days, I met a girl on there. We'll call her Megan. Megan had a few mutual friends, so I messaged her because I thought she was cute. Things went well and we decided to meet. Eventually, we started dating. She would spend the weekends at my place. And if I had to work, I'd just let her stay at home and hang out with my 2 roommates. She was wild in bed, and she never made me wear a condom because she said she was unable to have kids, and that even if she could, she was on birth control anyway. Eventually, I discovered that every time I left for work, she would fuck my roommates. Yeah, I saw that one coming, buddy. Saw that one coming. This really broke my heart, because those guys were like brothers to me, and I would have never done anything like that to them. Anyway, Megan was a total whore, so naturally I dumped her, and also moved back home with my mom because I hated my roommates. As I said before, Megan was wild in bed, and she loved kinky things like being choked. Buddy, now, I don't know if I just attract a certain type of woman, but I don't know if the whole being choked thing is as wild and kinky as you might think. I don't know if I could think of a girl who didn't like that. But alas. The very last time we had sex, she asked me to choke her, so I did, and it left a faint red mark on her neck. After I dumped her, she told all of our friends, as well as her family, and my family, that I had been abusing her and that she had marks on her neck to prove it. Imagine having to explain to your own mom that you weren't abusing a girl, you were only choking her during sex. I mean, if my mother was accusing me of abusing somebody, I think it would be ridiculously easy for me to say she asked me to do it during sex. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Megan's mom and sister called me several times, threatening to sue me, but luckily they never did. The next relationship I had was ruined by one of Megan's friends, who contacted my new girlfriend and told her about the alleged abuse, including news stories I hadn't heard before, like apparently I put Megan's head through a wall. I tried explaining that it was all lies, but the girl had just met me, and understandably, it was a red flag for her, so she stopped seeing me. Several months later, Megan contacted me and said she's having a baby soon, and it's mine. She told me she wanted to have an abortion and she wanted me to pay for it. I'm morally opposed to abortion, but in this case, I wasn't going to argue. I hated her, and I just wanted her out of my life forever. She told me she needed $2,000, so I gave it to her, and never saw her again. A quick note about the birth control and inability to get pregnant. I eventually learned that was all a lie. Anyway, she moved to another part of the country, and I was just glad she was finally gone for good. Or so I thought. A couple years later, I got a letter from my state child support enforcement agency claiming that I had a daughter and I owed child support. I got back in contact with her to ask what the fuck is going on, and she told me she decided to have the baby. Yeah, that's right. She had my child without me even knowing. On top of that, she fucking stole $2,000 from me. Well, she was a fucking whore, so I had my doubts that the kid was actually mine. And I assumed she was just trying to milk me for more money. So I told her I wouldn't pay child support unless we went to court and got a paternity test, and if I was the father, I would tell them everything and fight for custody. She didn't like that idea and instead decided she wasn't going to come after me for child support and promised she would leave me alone for good. She's pretty much disappeared since then, and it's been about 9 years since I last heard from her. But the fact that I could have a daughter out there somewhere, who I've never met, weighs heavily on my conscience every day. I'm afraid to tell people about it because they'll just label me a deadbeat dad without understanding the situation. A few years ago, I was in a serious relationship and I finally decided to get it off my chest to the woman I was falling in love with. And even she was not happy with me. It drove a wedge between us, and eventually I ended up single again. That's 3 relationships I've lost, as well as 2 close friends, all because I met her. I'm 30 years old now, and I'm afraid I will never be able to have a normal relationship with a woman because of this. Not only because I have to explain it to every woman I get close to, but also because it severely damaged my trust in women in general. I now live alone, and I frequently struggle with alcoholism and thoughts of suicide. I'm also paranoid that Megan could pop back up in my life at any time, even though it's been almost a decade. The dumbest thing is, all I ever did to her was try to love her. And that's the end of that story. Well, folks, classic tale. You stick your dick in crazy, and the crazy sticks its dick right back into your life. Sounds like he's had about a decade struggle because of one relationship. What advice would you give this 30-year-old man who feels like his relationships are all doomed? This is why sex is evil, people suck. Okay. What a simp. Go back in time and become a virgin. Good point. Turn gay. Not much really to do at this point. I don't think he's hopeless. If he hasn't heard from Megan in 9 years, and she did not want to go to court to take the paternity test, buddy, she's full of shit. If she lied about the $2,000 abortion, then she's obviously also going to lie again. All she ever fucking does is lie. You do not have to worry about having a secret child out there. She's a liar. She lied to you. If they lie to you once, then How can you think that she would tell the truth about something even more extreme? Absolutely ridiculous. I would say if she's been out of your life for 9 years, don't worry about the kid thing. It's not yours. I doubt there even is a kid. And just don't tell your next girlfriend about this stupid bullshit from 10 years ago. Seems like an easy answer to me. Mumkey child reveal? Maybe this is my dad. Oh shit. My secret dad. At least he had one in the first place. A lot of people can't get a relationship. Oh, Heartsy. Where do you send these stories? You send them to thedepressionchamber@gmail.com. Show us your feet for 2 bits. Show me the 2 bits, fucker. I'm not a cheap whore, buddy. You gotta give me the money first. 1 bit for each foot. If child support services reached out, there's prob a kid, but if she didn't go through with it, it's not his. Yeah, obviously. I mean, that's so obvious. If she doesn't want to go to court and prove that you're the dad, then she's lying to you. It's probably one of your fucking roommate's kids. If she's fucking 3 guys at the same time, there's no way you can think that's your kid. Do a barrel roll? Yeah, that'll help. Alright, folks, you ready to hear the final story of the night? A story called How My High School Experience is Killing Me. I know the title comes off as dramatic and edgy, but trust me, I'm gonna try to make this as not edgy as possible. I am going to be a junior in high school. I've always gotten good grades ever since middle school started and am considered gifted. I'll get to you later, Yudo. The story starts with my dad. In context, my dad is what I would describe as abusive. Some examples are when my sister talked back to him when she was a teenager and he started hitting her. Another example is when my sister was cooking something that was very hot and my dad and her started arguing. As a result, my dad threw my sister's phone on the floor and shattered it. When I was 12 or 13, I was really ticklish, so I would freak out when being tickled, and one day my dad tickled me as to mess with me and I ended up tripping him. This resulted in him attempting to hurt me, but my brother and sister jumped in and saved me. One last example would be when he accused me of breaking his laptop on purpose, even though I didn't even break it in the first place, and ended up breaking my drum set. So because of this, my dad ends up playing a major factor in how I feel today. When I was a kid, I cried a lot, so as you can expect, I was subject to a lot of bullying. This obviously had an effect on me mentally. I also would be disciplined by my dad, who also happens to be one of the most hardcore Christians I've ever seen. So when he said discipline, he meant hitting me with an iron spatula until I cried. My dad is not always a bad guy. I guess I'm lucky to at least have a father who taught me things about life. But as a child, he kind of only played the role as the punisher that would come and punish me for sinning and would always recite a Bible verse before doing so. I'm saying this because I feel as though these events in my childhood contributed to what I'm going through right now. Fast forward a bit later, I'm in high school now. I was bullied in middle school until the 7th grade, where things got a little better, and I gained a little bit of social skills and started taking care of myself. Freshman year of high school was like a revamped version of me. I came decked with social skills, self-love, and all the other bullshit I thought would help. I was ready to make friends. Obviously, in freshman year, I didn't make any real friends, and as a result, was lonely, especially looking at every other kid my age hanging out and having fun. During that summer, however, I met a person who would change my life. Let's call her E. I attend a youth group every Wednesday, and I met E there during a youth camp where we started talking. When we came back from youth camp, it took me a while, but I got her number. We soon became best friends, and I talked to her all the time, and I could talk to her about anything and everything. We both have the same interests, which are music, video games, anime, art, and cinema. There's just one problem with my relationship with E. She already had a group of friends. Being a year older than me, she had already found her people. So when I came into her life, I kind of had to adapt to the fact that I wouldn't be able to hang out with her too much. Sophomore year passes, and I make 2 real friends this time. A guy who we'll call Phil, and a guy who I'm gonna call Jules. Is Jules also reading you Bible passages before he wreaks havoc? They are important because there was a point when Corona obviously hit and I was isolated. I was able to get into contact with Phil, and we still talk to right now. However, Jules and I only have his Discord, which he doesn't use, so I can't talk to him. So here comes the part that I'm even writing this for. As a result of being lonely, I became very depressed, found myself going to church youth services more and more to maybe find an answer in God. Now obviously church is shut down and I don't even have that. So now it's maybe April and E wants to play Overwatch. I reluctantly agreed since E and I barely got to hang out or play video games due to her already existing friend group, and she doesn't really seem to have time for me. I spent the whole day downloading it on my PC, and because of my slow-ass internet, it went till later in the night. We start playing, and all of a sudden, my dad walks in and tells me to get off the video games. I ask why, and he yells at me saying he told me not to play. Soon we get into an argument where, in short, I end up getting pushed into a wall and hit in the face with a shoe. After that, I wanted to vent to someone, but I was already venting to E all the time about my edgy problems and decided to keep it inside. After a while, it took its toll on me and I decided I was going to kill myself. I didn't feel the need to write a note, but I felt to at least have E, who was my only real friend at that point, a cryptic little message. The message thanking her for being such a good friend and that I appreciated her and told her I loved her in a best friend way, of course. I ended up taking my dad's gun and was ready to do it. I sat there for a second thinking about my decision, but decided to do it. I ended up stopping thinking about it and pulled the trigger thinking it would be the last action in my life. Obviously it wasn't, and my dumbass forgot to turn off safety mode. I sat there for what felt like hours thinking about what I had done. I had pulled the trigger. I was about to go, but I didn't. I put the gun back and went to my room. Fast forward to now, and I'm doing a little better. I decided not to tell E what happened, and I ended up talking to Phil more than I did. Recently, I made a new friend who we'll call Cal, and she's really cool. I tried to ask my parents for therapy. My mom said yes. My dad declined and said I was faking my depression and thus denied my therapy. So now I feel like I have no other option than to share my story with the obviously most qualified therapist, Mumkey, in hopes that he can get me out of this depression chamber. And that is the end of that story. Well, very few people who write into the depression chamber can tell the story of the time they attempted suicide. So, because I would imagine most people don't have the safety on. So, what advice do you guys have for whatever his name is? Don't be a teenager. Good point. I mean, I feel like a running theme of most of these stories is an abusive parent who is usually religious. You would think Islam, but no, it's almost always Christian. I'm not saying that Christianity is a blight on the world and causing abuse to our children in ways unseen by most, but there's a running theme here, folks. I don't know. I haven't seen any atheist dads beating their kids with spatulas, folks. If you have the story of an abusive atheist dad, I would love to hear it. Send that in to thedepressionchamber@gmail.com. The running theme in these is that their problems would go away if they stopped being teenagers. Muslims don't beat their children, just their wives. Yeah, I don't think any wives have ever wrote into the Depression Chamber. Actual advice, being a teen sucks, but it will end and they will look back on that time of their lives as a time of cringe and stupidity. I think this is more about having an abusive dad than about feeling cringy. My dad made me eat a raw chicken heart. Good. He's getting you ready for nugs. You gotta build up to chicken nuggets and chicken tendies. I'm autistic, so I automatically qualify for the stream. Okay, Yudo wanted me to show off my armpits. I know you can't show nipples on Twitch, so I'll give it my best shot without showing the nips. Let's see if we, there we go. That's some hot armpit action for you, folks. I think he wanted both of them. He was a twofer. There you go, folks. That's what $2 gets you around here. But that is all the stories I have prepared for today. So if you want to hear more Depression Chamber stories, I'm going to be doing these every Monday and Thursday night. If you want to submit your own story, again, that's thedepressionchamber@gmail.com. If you're watching this and you have a Twitch and you haven't followed yet, for some reason, maybe hit that follow button so you know when the next stream is. But really, that's all I got for you right now, so I guess I'll hang out with the chat for a few more minutes before I run off to the bathroom. I wonder what $4 gets. Well, you'll have to request it. I'm not that creative. My abusive schizo mom says that you're a stupid American. I hope she's talking about me. Cedar Point. Is that the theme park in Ohio? How much to see my piss? Oh, you gotta go on my OnlyFans for that. Read fan fiction. I think the first story we read was fan fiction. Yeah, only 2 bits to see my feet. Armpits are $2. Feet are 2 bits. How's the YouTube channel? It's doing okay. I got a video taken down this morning for copyright bullshit, but should have a brand new video out on Saturday. Been editing that all day. And now I'm doing this. And now I gotta go back to editing. So, fun day. Repeating because I think Mumkey would find it interesting. I had a Muslim friend in 6th grade, except he lied about being abused exactly 50% of the time, but sometimes he'd show me his actual wounds. How do I get a GF? Well, your username is Bonicle Forever, so I assume your obsession with Bionicle might be getting in the way. Abusive dads seem to be a theme here. No wonder I found your channel after I tried to end it. Yeah, if I recall, you posted a Twitter video of your dad, like, beating the shit out of you one time. That was not pleasant to watch. No, not stream editing, a real video! What do you take me for? I really enjoyed Trash Rats. Can't wait to see more. I think we're filming an episode on Saturday with guest star Aggie, so that'll be exciting. Mumkey, I got a degree in English. I blame you. Don't fucking blame me. I'm the poster child for why you shouldn't get a degree in English. Look what I'm doing with it. Look at this shit around me. Does this look like the possessions of a guy who got a 4-year degree? No. This is the possessions of a man who did nothing with his life. It's just fucking monkey art all over in a wheel of We filmed that video yesterday. Wheel of Cursed Meals 2. We filmed it yesterday, folks. Expect to see the video up in a week or two. Maybe at the end of the month. I don't know. But boy howdy, did we film the Wheel 2. Girlfriends are overrated. I have myself. There you go, Heartsy. Now you're being realistic. You have a clean poster. You are banking it right now. Oh, Dominic. Okay, we'll end the stream with my feet. Gotta get these bad boy socks off, folks. Okay, remember, Dominic forced this. This was not my choice. And I'm gonna end the stream with this, so everybody have a nice night. Let's see if I can angle myself. Ah! That's all the feet you get. Good night, everybody. It's been fun. Farewell. Yeah, don't come too hard. Maybe I'll stream something tomorrow. Maybe we'll play a game or take more quizzes or something. I don't know. See ya.